Andi Thieman, today's guest, founded PennyLoafer, a charitable giving platform that allows you to give money to a cause you choose, and the company does the rest, finding the best nonprofits to meet your purpose. She'll also share insights about her superpower. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe. Welcome to the Superpowers for Good show. Andi, welcome. We're so glad to have you on the show today. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, Devin. I'm excited to be here.
Well, Andi, you're doing something really new and interesting, and I just love every attempt to increase philanthropy, charitable giving, doing good. That's what I'm about. And so when I saw what you were doing, I was thrilled and grateful for the chance to get you on the show to talk about what you're doing with PennyLoafer. Tell people what it is.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so PennyLoafer is a platform to make charitable giving simple and more strategic for everyday donors. So what we do is create ongoing giving strategies around select causes like climate change and mental health, with the goal of getting more people donating and feeling impactful with their giving and learning along the way with us. So what it actually looks like in practice is, a donor might come to PennyLoafer. We have four featured causes right now to choose from. That is climate change, mental health, quality education, and racial justice. And so they can choose a cause and a monthly giving amount as little as $5 a month. So let's say Devin wants to give $10 towards climate change. And then PennyLoafer takes care of all the research and vetting of nonprofits, and we essentially put together this strategy for the donor. It's enabling collective impact because each month we pull all the donations to the cause. So Devin's $10 is along with everyone else who gave to climate change will go to a different vetted nonprofit each month. And then I think the real benefit to donors on top of giving is getting to learn with us along the way. So you would receive a newsletter each month that breaks down the charity you're supporting, the strategy they're using to address the issue like climate change, and then also other things related to the cause. So you can feel informed and engaged beyond the monetary contribution.
Oh, fantastic. Right now you have four causes. It's easy for me to imagine a day when you're bringing in $4.2 billion a month that you might have more. Is that what you envision? That as you get more donors and more money coming in, you can do more screening, have more causes?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're already thinking about causes to add. I think one thing I want to be cognizant about is I don't want it to feel overwhelming for the person coming to PennyLoafer. There's so many different causes to support. And I think one thing I'm trying to do is just make it really simple to just start giving and not be overwhelmed by so many choices. But certainly as we grow, I'd love to grow the number of causes to a digestible amount. And also the number of nonprofits we can support each month. So you can imagine in each cause area, we'd have a collection of nonprofits that we're supporting potentially on an ongoing basis for a period of time. So donors can really get to know the different nonprofits.
Yeah. How is it going so far? How are you doing in attracting donors? I know this is a fun project, but how's it going?
It's going well. So we're only 6 months old. We launched in September, and it's been growing each month, which is awesome to see. In our first 6 months, we've given over $10,000 to nonprofits, and we've supported 28 nonprofits at this point, and a lot of them are smaller, more grassroots nonprofits. 75% are female-led, and 40% of those are women of color. So I think we're really highlighting a lot of different organizations that are on the ground doing important work. I think with anything like this, user acquisition is always a challenge, and something I'm having a lot of fun trying different things to get out in front of more people and attract more donors.
Gives you an excuse to talk to middle-aged white guys over in Florida.
Exactly.
Right? So, this is really kind of important work that you're taking on. And one of the key things that you're doing is to vet nonprofits. And that is hard. Let me just tell you, as someone I've probably talked to, let's be honest, I've probably spoken with 600 different people who are executive directors, nonprofit founders, executive directors, CEOs. And there's not one that I can remember ever visiting with where I didn't think, man, they're doing good work. They're doing important work. It's tough to choose. So, how are you going about that process of choosing which nonprofits to support?
Yeah, I appreciate you highlighting just how difficult that process is. And I think it's something that holds some people back from donating occasionally just because you can fall into this analysis paralysis of where to give and where will it make the most impact. And there's so many people doing good things. And so one thing I'm trying with PennyLoafer is just to highlight the variety of strategies that are being deployed to address an issue. And I want to give donors kind of a wide breadth of understanding of different ways that people are addressing big things like climate change or the mental health crisis. And so one thing that's nice is each month I get to choose a different one. But as there's 1.5 million nonprofits operating in the US alone. So it's still quite a feat to choose. I'm mainly looking at 4 criteria when I'm looking at nonprofits, and that's impact trajectory. So what have they done? What do they plan to do? I call it homegrown, but like how representative are they of the community they're serving or connected to the community that's impacted by the issue? Capacity, so just looking at leadership and team and the capacity to take on more funds. And then transparency, which is all the 990 financials, year-end reports, things like that, their communication strategies. So those are kind of the 4 criteria that I'm using. But of course, as you said, it's difficult. And through this process, I'm trying to highlight smaller, more grassroots nonprofits, things that people wouldn't necessarily find with a couple quick Google searches or that they haven't heard of right off the bat. And I think a lot of times it can feel like, your money's going further too with some of these grassroots orgs. So that's all to say. It's not a perfect process. I don't think anyone quite has the perfect process. And there's a lot of different ways people look at impact and effectiveness. And so right now, that's my process. I do plan as we grow to shift to a guest expert model and using expert broadly to be, it could be foundation staff at national foundations. It could be change makers, policy experts, even community organizers, just people who are really close to these issues, who are on the ground, who understand them. And I think this could be really interesting for our donors because they could see a wide variety of perspectives on evaluating nonprofits and how they choose. And then for some of the bigger national foundations, I think it would be really cool to make some of this due diligence and institutional knowledge more accessible to everyday donors. So that's a path that I want to move towards. For right now, it's me, and I have my criteria, and I'm trying to pick a wide variety and keep things interesting. But that is the goal in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about kind of focusing on some smaller nonprofits, and I've seen sometimes people are nervous about giving to small nonprofits because they're unfamiliar. We're all familiar with organizations like the Red Cross, and we feel comfortable giving to them generally, most of us. But oftentimes I've seen maybe some of the things you're seeing, and I'd be interested to get your take on this. But it seems like sometimes I see that in small nonprofits, more of the work is done by volunteers. So even though they lack scale, the dollar efficiency of donations is sometimes as great or greater than in the large organizations. What are you seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's certainly part of it. A lot of them are using a volunteer base, and I think what's cool is a lot of them are building the capacity of volunteers to eventually be hired on and to lead these organizations. And so So what you often see, especially with some of the smaller community-based organizations that are more grassroots, is that it's the people who are most impacted by environmental injustices, or racial injustices, things like that, that are actually, trained up to eventually work at and lead some of these organizations. And I think just the nature of these smaller organizations is they know how to stretch a dollar, and they've been having to do it. And so when they get a donation, from something like PennyLoafer, that's unrestricted funds, meaning they can use it however they want. That can go a lot further for some of these organizations.
Yeah. Well, it is a trick for young nonprofits to raise money. So I commend you for including them in your screen so that some of them can get some resources from you. How did you come up with the idea for this project?
Yeah, so my background's in nonprofit consulting and human services. So I, have a master's in social work, and I've done a lot of grant writing and strategic planning and best practice research and fun things like that for nonprofits. So I've always been in this space. But my career started in tech. So I was doing sales and account management at tech startups. So PennyLoafer feels like this blend of these two worlds coming together, technology and the nonprofit sector to help make charitable giving simpler. But the idea actually came in the summer of 2020 in the midst of a pandemic and a reinvigorated racial justice movement. It felt like a lot of people were scrambling to help, but they weren't really sure where or how. So you saw people turning to social media or asking friends. I got a lot of texts during that time. Where can I give? That sort of thing. And the whole thing just made me reflect on my own giving habits. And I realized that they felt very reactive and sporadic. A cousin's charity run, a teacher friend who's raising classroom supplies and giving to a food pantry during the pandemic. And all of these are, worthy causes, and it feels great to be able to support them. But when I looked at my giving as a whole, it just felt very disjointed. And, there's these big things like climate change and the mental health crisis and racial justice that I really care about. But when I reflected on what am I actually doing on an ongoing basis and strategically to help organizations that are addressing these things, I didn't have a great answer for that. So I wanted to build something that, one, would help me, but also, people like me who want to be doing more, know they should be doing more, but maybe just don't really know where to start or don't have time to do that research. And so to make it really simple and really convenient to be able to give on an ongoing basis, even if it's $5 a month, and to make that feel impactful when it's combined with other people.
Yeah. Are you seeing people participating in your program now across a spectrum of donation size, or is everybody at that $5 and $10 donation level?
No, it's certainly a spectrum. I think our average donation is $20 a month, and the median's probably more around 10. But we have anywhere from $5 to $100 a month, I'd say, is probably the spectrum right now.
Fantastic. We got to get a few $5,000 people in
I
your
know.
program. So.
Well, Devin, you're welcome to.
Yeah. It is a valuable service that you're providing, right? Of helping people to figure out how to channel money toward a theme and make strategic decisions each month about how you divide that up among worthy cause or worthy nonprofits. So that's great work that you're doing. Obviously, this is a cool project, and you've had a remarkable career so far. Obviously, you're young and will do lots of great things. But what do you see as your superpower?
Yeah, it's a great question, one that I knew was coming, so I had to reflect on this a little bit. But I think my superpower is a bias towards action, and what I mean by that is I'm willing to take a leap before I feel completely ready. I'm okay with being uncomfortable and kind of getting outside of my comfort zone. And maybe I would state that as like I'm more afraid of never trying than of failing at something. So I'm willing to take kind of that first step.
Oh, that's great. Can you think of a specific example where you used that courage to step forward, um, and it worked? Can you think of,
Yeah.
where there was a good outcome, was something you want to brag about?
Yeah, no, I can think of a couple. So I think uh, for more of a personal example, I did a lot of improv in my 20s, which, is a type of performance where the entire thing is made up on the spot and as you go. And so I'd actually say improv was a way that I helped hone and develop this skill, because you need to just step out off the back line and trust yourself and trust your partner to create something. And so I got a lot of value out of improv and what it teaches, and have been, I think, able to channel that into my professional career as well. I think professionally speaking, at one of my tech companies that I worked at, or at a tech company that I worked at, they would also often preach about the just press send mentality. And so we'd have flyers around the office that said, just press send. And I think that was also an example of not getting caught in reading an email over 10 times before you send it, or having 5 people read your blog post before you post it and put it out there. And it's really putting your best effort forward and then releasing it out into the world. But I think professionally so far, obviously I'm still honing this skill, but PennyLoafer, I think, is a testament to my ability to take a leap and to channel my energy into building something, from an idea to an actual breathing, functioning thing, and putting it out there to the world.
As you think about this skill, and I'm intrigued by this because it is such a powerful thing, to just have the courage to, release your work into the world, to step forward and do something. How would you teach people to develop this skill?
Yeah, I think part of it is definitely just self-awareness. So when you find yourself, rereading an email too many times, to just be aware of that. Or if you're finding and you're feeling self-aware that, you're feeling this fear before you put something out there, just be aware of that. But I think a way to really help develop this is to work on shifting our mindset from looking at a failure as just a big failure and a bad thing that happened, to looking at it as an opportunity to grow and to learn. And so, often that's talked about as a growth mindset, but really just approaching tough things and maybe even things that you fail at as an opportunity to grow and to learn and to do better next time, versus beating yourself up about that. I'd also try improv. It's a scary thing to try. So.
I can only imagine how scary that would be the first time. Oh my heavens! Oh my
Yeah.
heavens! So, well, those are great, great insights. And Andi, I commend you for the great work you're doing with PennyLoafer. Before we wrap up, would you take a minute and tell people how they can learn more about PennyLoafer, how they can get started, and how they can connect with you personally?
Absolutely. Yeah, so our website is www.pennyloafer.org, and that's singular, PennyLoafer. So please feel free to come and to choose a cause and to set up a monthly donation amount. We love to have more donors impacting some of these important causes. Personally, you can email me at Andi, ANDI, at pennyloafer.org. I love to receive email, and I'm happy to meet new people and to talk about PennyLoafer. And then on all our socials, we're at PennyLoafer_org. So feel free to follow us and to follow our progress.
Fantastic. Again, Andi, thank you so much for being with us today. We wish you every success in growing PennyLoafer and changing the world.
Thanks so much, Devin. I really appreciate it.
All righty. Let's do some good. Thank you for tuning in to the Superpowers for Good show. Twice each week, we host changemakers who share their impact, insights, and superpowers. Don't miss another episode. Subscribe today at superpowersforgood.com. That's superpowers, good.com. Be super empowered. Get your copy of the book, Superpowers for Good, as an ebook, audiobook, paperback, or hardcover edition via your favorite online retailer. Interested in having me speak to your company, organization, or association? Visit devinthorpe.com. Then let's talk. Now, keep using your superpowers for good. Together, we can reverse climate change, improve global health, and eradicate poverty.